Huge thank you to CIBC for making We Get It possible. Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of We Get It. My name is Karine. I'm the program director with Young Adult Cancer Canada, and I am super pumped and excited to be here tonight with those of you watching or listening in, and with Marley, who we've known for quite a few years, and I'm quite happy for the conversation me and her are going to have, which is going to be around body image and the YAC Prime Study. So we'll get into this shortly. Today, it is daytime here when we record these. Often it is not too sunny. We haven't had a whole lot of sun in Newfoundland in the last two weeks, but it's all right. I'm wearing part of my hair are up and the rest is down, and I have a blue kind of dress, which is rare. Usually I wear black, but I'm wearing a blue dress. Maybe it's because of you, Marley. I feel like you're often very colorful, and I am in my home office today, ready to roll. Marley, hello, welcome. Thank you for being here with me.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Me too. So, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. I'm sitting in my bedroom as well at my desk, and it is 7:30 in the morning here, so it's bright a little bit. It's a little overcast today, so it's a little dim, but I am sitting at my desk. I have a dark maroon shirt on today, and my hair is long and down, and I am feeling ready for the day.
Yay to that. Thank you. And so we're going to talk about something today that we know and have gotten some confirmation. It's body image distress, and everything related to body image. So before we learn a little bit more about your story, Marley, I'm just going to give people an overview, which is really just brief snapshot of some of what we've found through YAC Prime Study, which, to be honest, we had a measure for body image in YAC Prime Studies. YAC Prime Study, if it's the first episode you're watching, it's a big research project that YAC embarked on in 2017 with Dr. Sheila Garland with Memorial University. We built this big survey, surveyed 622 young adults across the country, and have gotten a lot of information. And in that information, part of that was around body image. And for us, as we started to analyze the data with our research team, we found that body image was everywhere in all kinds of facets and issues for young adults, and that often body image and distress were connected, body image and fear of cancer recurrence. And so for us, it was a bit of a surprise, not that young adults suffer from body image distress, but that it was spread out everywhere. So let's start. What is in our scientific article that I did not write? If anyone knows me, I'm not the boss of the research team. The definition of body image, they say body image is a multi-dimensional construct that includes cognitive, perceptive, affective, and behavioral dimensions. So it is a lot. So I think sometimes people are like self-esteem, but it's not quite the same. So today we're really going to talk about the perception of the body and related to all of those things. So when we look into this and when we had the scale to measure, what we found that there was a higher body image concerns, and that was related to less time since diagnosis. So people who were closest to their diagnosis had higher body image concerns. Also, lower post traumatic growth. So I won't get into the detail of what post traumatic growth is, but people who had lower post traumatic growth also had higher body image distress, lower social support. So people who have less people around them to support them was also connected to to higher body image concerns. Greater distress. So the more distressed our young adults were, the greater the body image distress was, which maybe for some it's like, of course, that goes without saying. Not necessarily. When you think about it, distress is vast. It's not always necessarily related, but in this case, we saw that it could be. And the more treatment someone received, the higher the body image distress were. And those in treatment specifically as well were, there was more body image concerns when they were in treatment, and then the more treatment they got. So all of that for us brought a lot of questions. And the reality is, we talk a lot about body and body image. And if you watch TV, geez, it's hard to avoid thinking about our body and what it looks like. But there's very little research when it comes to body image in our young adults. There's little research in young adults in general. It's getting better, but still. But when it comes to body image, there is very little research. So there was all kinds of other stuff that they touched on the article. But for now, this is kind of um, where this is. So I know I shared the article with you, Marley, and one of the reason for those of you who might not know, not have the chance to know Marley, that we've asked her to speak of that with me today is you have been for I feel almost as long as I've known you, um, an advocate around body image and self-love around that very kind of openly online, and you talk about that and you talk about your concerns and what struggles were the struggles were for you. And I think this is quite helpful because I think we need to talk about that. Obviously we don't enough. So I would love to hear more about you and your story, and then we can dive into the body image related concerns more.
Thank you. I think my struggle with body image or a sense of self started far before cancer, for sure. I grew up as a heavier kid, and it didn't matter what I did, exercise or dietary wise. I just was always a bigger person, and I know now that that's because my thyroid wasn't working properly, and I had cancer spreading in my body, and I think that growing up with a poor sense of body image really affected the way I viewed my body once I started going through treatment. And I've been through a lot of treatment, a lot of years of treatment. I've been sick for 8 years now almost, and it's just been on and off, surgery, treatment, surgery, treatment. And I feel like for a long time, I almost disconnected from my body in the sense that it felt a little dehumanized. It felt like, I was here, but this wasn't my body. So much was happening to it that was outside of my control. And, you lose your sense of pride pretty quickly when your whole body is on display for multiple medical professionals, sometimes multiple in a day. And, it's difficult to still appreciate your body and look at your body and see it for what it is when you have so much happening that you can't change.
Mhm.
And for me, I wanted to be open with my story and struggles with body image because I wasn't seeing that from other people. And I knew that I couldn't be the only one. And in talking to my peers in the young adult cancer community, I knew that I wasn't the only one. But nobody had the voice to share those issues. And when I started to share a little bit about what I was going through with my body, I started connecting with more people, and more people were reaching out and saying, I also feel this way, or I struggled with that too. And knowing that I wasn't alone was very empowering for me. And it let me, start more towards a healing journey and more towards a respect for my body and appreciation for my body for what it is and what it isn't. And what it's carried me through, is more important to me than what it looks like. So that's kind of the point that I'm at right now. And that it's not every day that I feel that way. It's still hard, for sure. It's still something that I struggle with, but it's getting better, I think.
Yes. Excuse me, so much of what you just said. I want to get back on so many little parts because as I was listening to you, Marley, I think, yes, for sure, connecting. So the fact that you opened up, you gave permission for a bunch of people to then connect and say, me too, because we surveyed our community a little while ago, and I think 68% had body image concerns. That is huge. And I think for anyone listening who either never really had body image or doesn't have cancer or doesn't know young adults with cancer, when we talk about this, first, I have Marley with me, but I want everybody to understand that this is not, body image is not a people who identify as women concern. It is not related to gender. It is not isolated in weight only. It's just if you are overweight, or especially when we look at this, when we think of cancer, there are all kinds of things that comes into play for everyone. Regardless of, and then we can think like we had conversation last year, and I'm sure you did as well, Marley, around race and skin color. And some of our community members were saying, well, I'm Black or I'm a person of color. And when my scar appeared on my body, I couldn't even find a picture of someone who had the same skin color as me to understand how it could heal. So that really messed up how I felt about my body, because I was walking not knowing what could happen. So there are all kinds of elements that will come and affect body image. And some people who identify as male in our community have opened up about me too, because it can be about scars, it can be visible, but it can be invisible as well. And that
Mhm.
can still affect, like you spoke, Marley, a little bit about how you've, and I would love to for you to elaborate how you get about doing this, but you spoke about how you had to figure out to regain some almost love for your body, what it does for you and everything, even though some people will say, I feel like my body betrayed me.
Mhm.
I feel like when cancer happened, I was young and I was doing my thing and I didn't see it coming. And then I'm having a hard time trusting my body again. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I can, yeah. I think it's really discouraging, and it doesn't create a good relationship when you take care of your body and you do all of the things that you're meant to do, and to put it the way you did, it betrays you. Your body is designed to do something, and it doesn't do it properly, and it's hard to have a trust in your body when you've gone through that. Even just one time, I unfortunately I've gone through several diagnoses over the last few years, and it feels like every time I'm re-diagnosed, I lose a little bit more trust or a little bit more faith in my body, and it's hard to pull that back together and nudge my inner judge, and as Genevieve would say, and push it to the back, and just be present in who I am right in this moment. But you are right, it's not just about weight. My body image started with my weight, and as my body has changed through treatment, I've gained a lot of weight, but I've also had other issues that have contributed to my sense of body image. I have a large scar on my neck that I don't think it picks up in the camera today, but it's quite big. It goes from behind my ear across the front of my neck, and that's 4 surgeries, so it's been there for a long time, and it doesn't look the greatest, and it bothers me because it's so visible. And I had hair issues for a long time, through treatment, and I started growing hair on my cheeks that wasn't there before with my hormones, and it just, all of it sort of started accumulating over time, and as more things were coming up and I was feeling more uncomfortable with parts of my body, it just kind of compounded, and then all of a sudden I was left with this big issue that felt insurmountable. And I don't really remember what your question was, to be
No,
honest.
and it's more like, we were talking about how do you regain this kind of, my body
Mm,
does so much for me, even if I have hair on my chin, and how do I
yeah.
not focus on that and kind of regain some of that?
Yeah, it was a lot of therapy.
Mhm.
To be honest, I had to see a counselor, and I still see a counselor right now through Inspire Health, and my counselor has been fantastic at helping me work through some body image issues. But I think it started with a little bit of gratitude, or a lot of gratitude, really, and that's something that I've talked about before with YAC, and being able to find joy in the little things. And even though all of these big issues were pressing or weighing down on me with my body, being able to find gratitude in parts of my body as well that I did appreciate. So whether that looks like standing in front of a mirror and taking myself in for a few moments and just saying, I really like my hair today. I really like the way my legs look. I really like, these different parts. So that was a big turning point for me, I think, to be able to stand in front of a mirror and say out loud to myself things that I appreciated. And the more that I did it, the easier it became, and the quicker I was able to pick things out and say, you know what, I really like that. I think I have a really nice smile. I think my eyebrows matched today. So it helped for sure. And I think just because part of my issue was that disconnect, or that dehumanization between my body and my being. I think just touching my body was important to me, and taking mindful showers. So for a long time, like if I touched my body anywhere, it didn't feel like my body. It just was like I was touching somebody else. And so taking a mindful shower to me looks like taking some time to just reconnect and feel myself again. So starting at the top of my head, if that's what it takes, and I turn the lights down and put a candle on and put some nice music on or whatnot to like create this comforting, soft mood where like I'm not anxious, I'm more relaxed, and I just start feeling my body and feeling my head, and then like my arms, and closing my eyes and just thinking what are other people feeling, and what what does this body feel like, and reconnecting in that sense, and being able to recognize, what, I do have a big stomach, but this part of my body here, it's soft and it feels nice, and just touching different parts and feeling it, and not in a weird way, not in a sexual way, just
No,
just reconnecting and feeling my body again, and regrounding, recentering myself with who I am.
this is beautiful. What a beautiful practice. And again, you are touching on pieces of, because there is some of the things I was saying, like visible to yourself or to others when it comes to body image, but there's also this some people live with a lot of pain,
Mm-hmm.
and how that affects the way they walk, that affects the way they are able to move. So then that affects the way they perceive their body. So they feel like they're old or older than they should. So all of those things make it hard to say, okay, how do I make peace, reconcile with my body today? And I do love this mindful practice you're describing, because I think the tendency can be, like you said, to disassociate yourself from your body. So all of a sudden your head and everything is disconnected, and that can cause a lot of distress and anxiety when because it's really hard to avoid. Our body follows us around.
Mm-hmm.
It's a partner in our lives. It's something that we walk around with all the time. So it's hard to not feel connected to it. So I think gratitude. So when we look at what has been done around around creativity, around I'm thinking of Genevieve now, or just something our beautiful colleague and friend Genevieve at Inspire Health. But when we're thinking of body image, doing some gratitude work. And gratitude, it doesn't mean, I'm sure it's not like all of a sudden I like everything. Sometimes it's to pick a little part of your body today that you like or that you appreciate. And sometimes, like I think, even going into our organs, or going into, I'm appreciative of my hands today because they've allowed me to touch, or they've allowed me to cook myself a meal because I had the energy to do so today. So sometimes it is to also break those pieces down so we can reconnect with everything that our body actually does for us, even when it feels quite dysfunctional, right?
Mhm. Yeah, and I think that I know it's been talked about a lot in YAC, the idea of 1% changes, and I feel like that's the perfect spot to start. It's not going to be, you wake up one morning and suddenly you love your body and you love everything about it. It's not going to work that way. Unfortunately, I wish it did, but just being able to take the time to recognize that you appreciate a part of your body or that you're grateful for it. It's a good place to start, because then it becomes easier and easier. And recognizing that this part in my body where my waist is, that felt nice when I touched it in the shower that day. Now the next day when I look in the mirror, I'm going to say, hey, look, I have these really nice curves, or I have this. And it's a little change, right? That I was able to recognize it in that moment. And then the next time I went to look at my body, I appreciated it a little bit more. And sometimes I might appreciate something one day and hate it the next. And I think, it goes both ways, but it's just a small change that can have a big impact.
Yeah, I think that's it. And I love that she said, a process and practicing things that we want to change. It doesn't mean that we never ever go back. Actually, we probably always do, kind of like, oh, I took a step back today. It's just to not let ourselves get discouraged by this. We love cats and animals. They're in We Get It episodes almost every week.
I have two. There's one sleeping behind me and one that keeps jumping up on the table.
I know. I see one is demanding attention. So you can love something one day, and then the next day feel like, okay, I'm not quite there. Like you mentioned your scar, and I think like I hear a lot of people in our community speak of the process they went through when it came to their scars, because scars are visible to the outside world, and sometimes if you're someone who can see, you can see your scars as well. But ultimately, some of our community members have days where those scars only remind them of the hardship and all the hard stuff that they went through with cancer. But sometimes they are able to flip that relationship to say, I've been through so much. I've overcome so much, and this is what this scar or represents. How is that evolution has been for you in regards to your scar?
It's been, it's not been easy, I'll say that. I was quite young when I had my first surgery. I was 20, and when I was 20, I was very focused on how do other people perceive me, and what is happening with my body, and what do other people think of. And in the beginning, that scar was very small. It was only 2-3 inches in the front of my neck. And I had a great surgeon who was able to hide it quite, I mean, maybe because I'm a little bit heavier, I have, a natural crease in my neck that it hides in. But, I was very concerned about it, and I hated it, and I wanted to cover it with scarves all the time, but I didn't have good sensation in my neck, so I couldn't wear a scarf for a long time. And it was a conversation starter for a lot of people, and I didn't want it to be. And it forced me to acknowledge it, and it forced me to talk about it, because people were so, what happened to your neck? They hadn't seen that before. And I used to really struggle with it. And over the years, my scars gotten bigger, and one of my scars was a little bit lumpy, so I had to have a scar revision when they redid my neck surgery. And I felt really uncomfortable with it for a long time. And I think now I am more at the spot where it doesn't necessarily represent the bad things that I've experienced. I think it represents resiliency and strength. And I have so much, I can't think of the word I'm looking for. I'm so in awe when I look at my scar, to know of all of the things that my body has gone through and was still able to heal. And that's what I think of when I see it now, because it has healed really well, considering it's been open 4 times. And unless I point it out now, for the most part, people don't notice it. And my skin is very fair, and I thought that my scar was going to stay very red for a long time, because it was quite red. And with my last surgery, I had staples, so I had 39 staples across my neck, and I had scars from every single staple above and below the actual incision line. And I have scars from my drain tubes and whatnot. And I thought that this is going to be forever, and people are forever going to ask me what happened, and I will never be able to not think about it, because as soon as I meet somebody new, they're going to ask me, and now I have to spill my whole life story. And so I didn't have an appreciation for it, and I think that I do now. And I don't necessarily think there's anything that I've done to get to that point. I think it's just been growth on my end as a whole, and just being able to recognize the difference between this being a terrible part of my life and this being a positive part of my life. And as that changed for me, as that shift in mindset changed for me, the shift towards my scar changed as well.
Yeah, that's it. And it is, people on the outside do play a big role sometimes in reflecting and bringing people into that place of self-consciousness. And but the interior and all the work you've been doing and all the work our community members are doing in regards to their body and body image and trusting their body and, doing all of that things. It's hard sometimes to let it be influenced by comments, questions, because you're kind of on your process. But I think it is important because a lot of people don't know. So for again, for those of you who are not quite aware, a lot of the people we talk to, and I know you're going to agree, Marley, like when you have cancer, you go through cancer treatment. So surgery, of course, like we said, can often cause scars, and some of them are very visible, some of them are not, but they're there. And there's also medication that can alter skin. So, like Marley was saying, hair growing or even weight gain, weight loss, all of those things, rashes. There are all kinds of side effects that can linger quite long after the treatment, that alter the appearance, the physical appearance of someone's body, and sometimes how the body feels. So sometimes it's both. It's not only I feel sluggish or heavy or stiff or in pain, but my body is also all blown up because of the steroids. So all of those things sometimes come in. It's not, it's not because someone is not taking care of themselves. It's just they're fighting the cancer. They're taking all the drugs and doing all the things that they're told like they need to do. And that is going to affect the body. The body goes through a lot through cancer. And so finding that line and having people be aware of that is important, because sometimes, if you bump into someone you haven't seen in a long time and you see a scar, or you see that the person gained weight, lost weight, looks different, doesn't have any hair, sometimes I think it's okay to take a step back and a breath and before inquisitive and asking questions, because see, let the person come to you, let the person open up about what, if they want to, what they've been through or what they are going through. And don't always assume that because you can see it, they will want to talk about it. Sometimes I think there's often really good intentions in there, but I'm sure you've had a few questions in your cancer life, right,
Mm-hmm.
people?
Yeah, I remember, the first day I went back to work after my last surgery in 2018. Um, like I said, I had my incision and I had all my staple marks, and it was pretty red. I went back after, I think, 4 months I took off, and um, first person that walked into the office that I hadn't seen in 4 months looked at me and said, "Oh, what happened to you?" And instinctively in those moments, I was like, "Oh my God, I'm hideous. Like everybody sees this, everybody." And I was really bothered by it. And I know that, I hadn't shared that part of my life with him. He was a customer at work, like you know, a, I work in an office, but we have clients and customers, and so it was the first time I had seen him. I hadn't shared that part. He didn't know what happened, and I think instinctively he probably thought I was injured. I don't think he thought that there was a big, 7-year story behind this, and it was just instinct. And now I think I would rather people ask me, so that I can, come from a place of education and teach people that, you know that it's not okay to ask about things, or that it is okay sometimes, right? And share my story as a young adult, because there's a lot more out there. There's a lot more young adults living out there with chronic illness than we know there are.
Yeah.
But I think it also allows me, like, in a weird way, it allows me an opportunity to explain myself for the way I look. And that's not right. I recognize that it's not right, but in my situation, I never looked like your stereotypical cancer patient, right? I didn't lose my hair. I gained weight. I know that, and you know that weight gain is a huge issue in people of all different diagnoses. But when non-cancer people or cancer muggles think of a cancer patient, they think of somebody losing a tremendous amount of weight who's bald and quite sickly looking, and and I never looked like that throughout my treatment. And I was always told, oh, you look so good, and you don't look like you're sick, and all of these things. And inside, my body is destroying itself and I'm struggling and I'm fighting just to get up every day. And I think that because of the way my body presents itself as being overweight, and the different issues that I faced, I think that, well, I know that people have their own perception of me based on my body, and they assume things about me that aren't true. They assume that I don't take care of myself because I'm overweight. They assume that I don't exercise, I don't eat well. And so when people ask me about my body and ask me about my scars, it gives me the opportunity to say, I look like this because I'm sick. And I know that that's twisted. I know that I shouldn't have to explain myself for the way I look. And that, my health is my business only. And I guess my doctor's, but, I shouldn't have to justify the space that I'm taking up in this world. And I do. And it feels good in the moment for me to be able to say, this is not my fault. I don't look like this because of anything I've done. So sometimes I do appreciate people asking me, as difficult as it can be to have that cancer conversation with somebody you've never had it with before. It gives me the chance to explain myself.
Yeah, and that's a really good distinction, Marley. I think there's a way to ask. So sometimes I've asked, like, if you don't feel like talking about it, you don't have to. But if you do, like, I would love to hear and listen what happened. Or so sometimes there's a way to inquire. And I know that this customer you're talking about, God, people are not mean and meaning. Like, sometimes things come out of our mouth and we don't realize. And that's okay. Like, I do that a lot. But sometimes it is also to take a step back, and maybe someone watching today is going to kind of realize that, okay, there's a whole lot going on when it comes to body image, distress, and then cancer and all the other issues. Because to your point, you are not the only one who has had body image issues before cancer. And then cancer came in and mixed in all of that. And you were quite young, like you said, at 20. That's another level as well. So I think, maybe hopefully some people listening, it just broadened your understanding of the young adult cancer experience and your understanding of some of the issues, body image being one of them. And I have a note here in the article, at the end of the scientific article from YAC Prime, it is recommended. So basically, when you find that there is an issue, when you find that the more treatment people get, so Marley is sharing her story with us, like 8 years journey, like that really affects body image concerns. Our healthcare systems, organizations like YAC and others, like some of our friends and partners, I think we need to pay attention to body image. We need to make sure conversations take place. Because a lot of people said, I had no idea what was going to happen to my body through treatment. Nobody told me. So then it's like, oh my God, what's happening? So even without scaring the shit out of people, like even if some healthcare professionals had conversations with people where, this might happen and this might feel this way, and then it can heal or get better. I think that's important. So some of the suggestions, first is a lot more research is needed to understand body image and how it impacts young adults. And second, conversation is needed from the healthcare team. And then, like you said, Marley, talking to your peers, normalizing this experience because so many are feeling this way. Do you have any parting words, any words of wisdom you want to leave us with? that you feel you found helpful or that you would like people to know? It could be anything.
Mhm. I think that we only have one body. Well, I know that we only have one body in our lifetime. And even if it's not performing the way that we want it to, or it feels like it's betraying us from time to time or all of the time, I think it's important to just hold on to some appreciation for what it's gotten you through. Because in that moment, you're still here and you're still breathing, hopefully, and you're still functioning. And that means that in those moments, you're still winning, I think. And I think that it's easy to pick out the hard parts, and it's easy to compare yourself to others, but comparison is the thief of joy. And take some time to appreciate your body for what it is. And once you've had the opportunity to appreciate your body for what it is, I think that your mindset can shift pretty quickly or pretty drastically on the way that you view your experience with cancer as a whole. And I think it's going to shift for the better.
Well, that is some wisdom, my dear. Thank you so much, Marley, for this conversation. I'm so appreciative. There's a lot more, of course, that we could say and talk about. So we'll revisit this topic, I'm sure, again in the future. But thank you a million times for taking a little chunk of your morning with me. Thank you to everyone who watched. Hopefully it was interesting for you, or maybe you're listening in. And as I do every Monday, just a reminder to just breathe. Especially, I love like Marley and mindful shower, rediscovering like, okay, sometimes I'll stop and tap my body and say thank you for today. So sometimes pausing, taking a moment to breathe, reconnect, get grounded back can really help us as we get through the day. So that's my little weekly reminder. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us. Thank you, Marley, for being here. And I hope you have a good rest of whatever you're going and doing today and right now, and that you can join us next Monday, 7 p.m. Thank you, Marley.
Thank you.